Mid-Ohio TCR action again, and it returns to the big screens of the SimSpeed Esports Network. Jonathan Swan on the commentary booth, Jay Kennedy alongside me in comms and production. And Jay, here we are, Thursday night action in these TCR Audis. And of course, the best thing I like about the TCR is that we are on the luxurious V7 tire model in iRacing, and it makes these cars ever so fun to drive. Yeah. And it's round 7 of the series, of course. So thanks to everybody who's joined us throughout Season 4 2019. There are the track details on screen. This track in the state of Ohio and Lexington, USA specifically. It's a 3.5-kilometer circuit, like you can see, about medium in terms of length for road courses out there in the universe. 30-minute race tonight. Now, we're not expecting pit stops, Jay, but we are expecting those rear tires. Being a front-wheel drive car, we're expecting those rear tires to take some time to warm up.
100%. I just realised that my mic was muted thanks to Bo Albert for putting that out, so everyone missed my little spiel at the start there. But yeah, tyres are going to be the key in this race, and of course the elevation around this circuit too adds such a big element. Track temp's fairly warm, so the guys are going to have to be careful for tyre wear throughout the race as well, because if you run too hard too early, we've seen in previous races, your pace drops off in the last 5 minutes. Those guys that have conserved have mega pace right at the end. We can probably see 10 or 12 drivers that could win this race tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to put any money on this race. I'd say if you're a betting advocate, steer clear of this one. But most certainly, these drivers will start their event in qualifying, and that's where we are currently for the moment, Jay. Now, of course, qualifying, these drivers are only allowed 2 laps maximum. Now, a lot of the drivers have completed their runs so far. You can see at the top left-hand side of the screen, we only have 50 seconds left in the session. Nick Foster, though, on the right-hand side of the screen, has provisional pole. No surprise, Nick Foster. He's also the highest I-rated driver in the field for a reason.
Yep, 100%. He's been very, very quick in these cars over the past few weeks as well. And Scotty McQueen and Corey Preston both been mega quick in these cars too. Inyo Beya, who we saw last week, finished second. He's also been very, very quick too. David Haynes and Mitchell McLeod both last week plus 11 and plus 12 positions. So they don't care how far back in the field they go, they'll move forward as well. So lots of drivers that are going to make spots. Those front 3, although they're very, very quick in qualifying, they have no guarantee of being there at the end.
And the 2 torque drivers, like you said, of Mitch McLeod and, of course,
Jack
you
Flood.
can't see him on screen. Jack
There he
Flood
is.
is in 19th. He's not in the overlay, but there he is live at the moment for talking.com.au. Check out the team, of course, after the broadcast. Don't miss all the racing action.
They're a hopeless team. Don't worry about checking them out. They're useless. I could say that I'm part of the team.
Here we go. Let's take a look at the grid for today's event. And like we said, Nick Foster was on provisional pole, and now it's locked in confirmation. He'll start alongside Scotty McQueen, the privateer. Corey Preston will be joined on the second row by Ivan Arjonis, Yoda Perez, and Matt Morris line the third row. Decent qualifying performance from Perez, only less than half a second off provisional pole. And then it's Mackay and Beya rounding out the top 8 here for your first 4 rows. Rounding out the top 10 is David Haynes in that huge ass car. Now, the big rear end of that huge ass car will be looking to make up a lot of positions, Jay. He's one driver that made his way, what do we call it in Just Send It? He's the biggest postie, wasn't he, last week?
Yep, was the postie last week, and made the most positions, did the best job of sending it. And it was a really, really good race at Barcelona last week. If you haven't seen it yet, controversy aplenty throughout the race with some driving standards that Nim Cross would have really shaken his head at. But looks like most of the drivers have been able to survive and get back for another week. So I'm sure they've had a very, very stern talking to last week. Fingers crossed we see a little bit of a cleaner race tonight with our 19-car field. No doubt that Mitchell McLeod and Jack Flood have done 2 laps of practice, so that'll be interesting to see them come through the field as well.
Yeah, it'll be.
I'm not joking about that either.
No, we'll see how we go. Nick Foster, God, that's a great camera angle. I hope we get to see a bit more of that. That's a brilliant spoiler, or rear wing, however you want to call it, out here on these Audi touring car racing vehicles. Now, of course, it's going to be a rolling start in this series. It's going to be 30 minutes of action if you're just joining us. And welcome along to the series if you're new to the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. On iRacing, we do not expect a pit stop in today's event. Now, Jay, it's only a short pace lap. We're currently here through China Beach, and we'll head through the final sector all the way to Thunder Valley. And then these drivers will be ready to scream towards a very short run down to turn 1.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very difficult for the drivers to have heat in the tyres already. So we're going to expect some carnage and some dangerous moves coming up to turn 2, but they should be fairly clean through turn 1. Well, in saying that, Corey Preston up the inside. That's a good move already on Scotty McQueen. Oh, little
and
bump.
I saw Yoda Perez. Whoa, that's one cone flying into the barriers and a spinner. It's Corey Preston already off the racetrack there. And Scotty McQueen continued. Now, Scotty McQueen's turned around. Is that Yoda Perez yet again? So, drama here in the opening stages of the race. And still argy-bargy here as they head through the hairpin, what's known as the keyhole. And there's the number 2 of James Mackay turned around. Oh, this is a chaotic getaway.
Yeah, it's a very, very messy start to the race. And, yeah, Mackay, unfortunate around again. But, yeah, Perez involved in a couple of incidents straight off the bat. McLeod and Flood very, very slow at the back of the field. We've had a car start from the pits as well. But looks like now we've got in a single file. We might start to see the cars get a little bit cleaner as Corey Preston off the circuit.
Oh, goodness. Now, we know it's a US server, and there's about 14 Aussie New Zealander drivers out there. So whether or not that's had an effect on some of these incidents, we don't know. Just because there are a lot of internationals there that were involved. Now, not saying that that was their fault, but of course we know the net code can always be an issue in sim racing. We ride on board with Morris. Now, Morris is a driver who is already down a few positions. Perez it's paid off for him, wasn't it? He's been very aggressive here at the start, and he's dragged along Morris with him.
Yep, so Morris and Perez both up 3. Bayer behind, who I said finished 2nd last week. He's already up into 4th, so we know he can make moves and just avoid those incidents. And back in the field, got 2 cars around as well, Graham and Swanpole as well. So a couple of drivers having a bit of bad luck at the start of the race. They're going to have to work from a long way back. That mid-pack, those spread out quite nicely, and I think we're going to see, once these tyres come up to temp, some really, really interesting battles in this mid-pack here.
Oh, geez, one driver, all 2 wheels on the curb. This is Rob Bowden on screen. The number 11, currently 11th position. Now, where are your talking cars? They're in 14th and 15th, so they're slowly making their way up the order. And we're still watching Rob on screen. That's a beautiful livery, by the way.
Very, very cool look on that car. And Dirt Division, by the looks, has made that one. As Matt Morris actually is making move around the outside here. He could get it done.
This is through China Beach right now, turns 4, 5, 6. Still alongside Yoda Perez as the track undulates. And we get an aerial view of this pass that's now confirmed by Matt Morris. Makes his way past one of the internationals in today's event. And Morris into 2nd.
Yeah, good move from Matt Morris. And last week he'll be looking for a bit of redemption because he was one of those drivers that was involved in a few very, very controversial incidents. So he'll be looking to have a little bit of a cleaner night. Have a look at the gap that Foster's already got at the front. He had to work his way through back through the field 3 or 4 times last week. Now he's got 3.5 seconds. He's well and truly comfortable out in front. The only driver doing 1 minute 30 lap times.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful turn 1 here at Mid-Ohio. Some of the races, they start on the next straight, just depending on the event. Just because how short turn 1 is, like we discussed. You got a Perez all over the rear end here of that VMMR car of Matt Morris. Now, this is going to be a brilliant overtaking opportunity heading into turn 4, China Beach, in a moment's time. Is the slipstream worth that much in this car?
I don't know if it is, unless you get an absolutely incredible run, and there is a chance you can too, because there's so many different lines through turn 2, and always a chance Perez has a little moment there. He's opened the door here for Bayer to potentially make a move. We've already seen around the outsides worked once. might work again here as defending is Ahones and McQueen looking to make moves in that black TCR car.
Oh, and you went very deep on the brakes here through the right-hander of turn 9. Now through Thunder Valley, we ride on board with him. This is Scotty McQueen, the privateer as he's listed. Start of the race, don't forget Scotty McQueen in second. So he's dropped an immense amount of positions after that early contact. And luckily no pit stops, Jay. Oh, is there some contact behind us? We switched to the aerial shot. It looked awfully close.
There was a little bit of a bump there between McQueen and Ahones. So this is going to get a little bit more spicy. And I'm sure that McQueen's not happy about dropping back through the field. He's been very, very quick in these cars every single track we've gone to so far. So he'll be unhappy with a current 6th position. He'll be wanting to get through and gain a few more spots before the end of this one and get himself back up there. Look how deep he is.
That was David Haynes going deep behind and ahead on a different shot. There's Yoda Perez in that yellow and black. Not a Richmond Tigers car, but it's a yellow and black TCR car, and he went very wide through the keyhole, of course, too, at turn 2. And it's an off-camber corner, so it's always easy to run wide and lose the rear end. Now they head through China Beach. This is this section 456 of China Beach. Oh, 2 cars alongside each other. Scotty McQueen almost turning around Ivan Arhonis. And somehow everybody hasn't changed positions and they've all kept it on the black stuff.
I don't know how they've all stayed in the same position, let alone kept it on the track. That's incredible. Good bit of driving and evasive action too. And these guys, a mistake there for Hones, and through goes McQueen. So applying the pressure has been enough, and now comes Haynes. He's going to get the spot too. So David Haynes now +4 as well, continues his climb up through the field. Also Mitchell McLeod +5, he's already up into 12th position, so he could be on the back of this train by the end of this race, the way that this train is looking right now. Mackay also looking to make moves too, which is good to see. His redemption drive.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw earlier, Arhonis just went so deep into the corner and almost took out the big rear end of the huge ass car. That's the last time I use that, Jay, I promise.
No, keep it going. Keep it going.
Maybe. Here's Perez going for the switchback, and that's brilliant there by Matt Morris, just parking it on the apex of the corner. Now, the only difficulty with that is that he's going to get a very slow run heading out of the keyhole. There's Perez now up the inside. This is going to be a braking battle for the 2nd position.
And Bayer's right in this too. Look at how deep he can run it because they're 2x2, or 2 wide even. And this will enable Bayer to probably throw it up the inside and maybe get Morris as well, because Perez will likely get the spot here. Here comes Bayer trying to get that move done. Good driving from Morris to continue to hold on side by side. There's a big bump.
Oh, and contact. Perez now finally out of the way. And somehow everybody seemed to make their way through unscathed. It was awfully close, but unfortunate contact between the two, and Perez ends up worse off. Here's the modem simulation replay.
Yep, so Perez side by side and probably did nothing wrong. I don't think Morris did too much wrong either there. I think that was just one of those unfortunate incidents where the curbs probably unsettled the car, and the line just means that you drift off that direction. And Perez probably didn't realise that the natural flow of the corner would have put Morris in that position. So I don't think Morris did anything wrong. I don't think Perez really did too much wrong either. Just one of those bizarre incidents that can sometimes happen at this circuit. What this has done, it's allowed Chris Barnes and Corey Preston onto the back of this train now too.
Oh, and a big tap to the rear end. That's some harassment there on David Haynes. Who is that behind Corey Preston? It's Chris Barnes, like you said. Chris Barnes there just harassing Haynes. Haynes, I think, car looks clean for David Haynes, so he should be okay. He's having a great race so far as David Haynes, our own SimSpeed broadcaster behind the scenes. Now, I'm just looking up ahead. Morris now has a 1.5 second advantage on Scotty McQueen, but the battle between our two internationals of Arhonis and Bayer, that's something to look out for here. Here they are on screen. This is where Perez unfortunately had his contact through the middle sector, through the S's as it's known at Mid-Ohio, but now through the end of the lap, I don't know if this is an overtaking spot, Jay. I think maybe the last corner into the carousel is possible.
Yeah, I don't think here's the right spot to look to make a move. This is where you set up the move. If you go for the move through this corner here, you leave yourself open for that final kink onto that straight. So you really want to set up your momentum here and then force the car ahead of you wide through turn 1 so you get the run into turn 2. And I don't think Bay is going to be close enough here. He's probably lost that momentum coming out of the second to last corner.
And you know what? The final sector here at Mid-Ohio, it reminds me a lot of the final corners at Barber Motorsport Park, if you're familiar with that circuit.
100%.
I don't know if they were designed to be similar, as we see two different lines here from our two internationals. But I quite like both sections at both racetracks.
Yeah, I think the only difference is the elevation slightly different between the two, but they are very, very similar. Probably the last corner a little bit tighter at Barber, but yeah, they are very, very similar. I never thought that they were similar until you just said that. The main difference would be the run between the second and third last corner, a little bit different, a longer sweeping corner at Barber, but yeah, very, very similar. I'd never noticed that. Now I can't unsee it.
There you go. Race now. Oh, here's Perez on a recovery drive on Ashley Ruskin. Oh, brilliant move by Perez. Just barges his way past. That's a move I like to see from a hungry Spaniard there of Perez. And now he's back into 9th. What do you think? Do you think Perez can possibly get back into the top 5? It's a long event.
I think he could, and the other driver that could get back up there is James Mackay too. He's the second fastest driver on track. Sorry, third fastest driver on track at the moment. So McQueen, Foster, and then Mackay. So you can't discount this guy. He's already passed McLeod. He's already put 1.5 seconds in a lap on Mitchell McLeod. And again, Mackay, very, very quick. Ahono's now fastest car on track. He's just set the fastest lap of the race in 4th position as he starts to close back in on Scotty McQueen. But we're going to see another move here. Ashley Ruskin could lose another spot.
And it's Damian Harris. He's going to have a peek here into the keyhole. Harris just a bit too far behind here as we watch from the chopper. And this will be a good representation of how much the draft can help. You'll see that Mackay behind in the black and green TCR will have a better draft than Harris will ahead. But again, it just doesn't seem to reel each other in. I think you need to be a lot closer than that.
I think the wind direction probably isn't helping as well. More of a crosswind for today's race. And you know that a head or tail wind means that the draft does get amplified, but the crosswind doesn't help the draft as much. So we might see the draft play a bit more of an effect at some other circuits where the wind is a little bit more favourable. But how's that for setting up a move there from James Mackay? Oh, a little bit of contact, and he's had to back out of that one. As Corey Preston just ahead has got past David Haynes on his recovery drive as well. But James Mackay looks quick, but couldn't quite get that move done.
I mean, Harris just wasn't his fault, but I mean, he just had no, I don't know. We'll look at the replay, Jay, but I mean, if you're Mackay, I think you've done everything correct here. This is David Haynes on screen. There's something happened to David Haynes, but you're just turning in on the driver and something's gone wrong. Now, I feel like Haynes there has had a slowdown penalty, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what's happened there. That's why he's just given up that spot, because he's more of a fighter than that. And here's the almost move up the inside and just bounced over the curb. And probably took a little bit too much grass there, and that's thrown him into the door of Harris. Harris will continue on with no issue, so got no doubt. Scotty McQueen's going to take second place here. And Matt Morris, look how close he's got in the last couple of laps. He is flying.
Yeah, good stuff here from Scotty McQueen. Started the race from second, and now after that abysmal start, I think he's showing his true pace. Don't think anyone's going to catch Nick Foster anytime soon. Let's ride on board with McQueen. And we're coming up to the section, Jay, here, where we saw Harris just turn in there on Mackay. And I tell you what, though, I think because Mackay didn't have his entire car alongside Harris, I think he has all rights to the corner. But the only thing I'm nervous about for Harris there was if he does turn in, he's at risk of even hurting his own race with an accident. So decent driving from both of them, nevertheless. It was good racing.
It was, and the only other thing too is that Mackay's a lot quicker, so why not give up the spot? You can always learn something. You're never going to actually help either driver by holding someone up that's that quick. Eventually they're going to get through in this longer race. If it was a 10-15 minute race, you probably could fight it a little bit more, but when there was still 20 odd minutes to go, no point fighting McQueen though. He's going to have no issues getting past Matt Morris there. Great move.
Brilliant pass. Yeah, sorry. Brilliant pass by Scotty McQueen. Now here is Matt Morris trying to reclaim the second position. Now where's he going to go? He says, if you're going to choose somewhere, you're going to tell me. And McQueen straight up defensive for the inside. And Morris just completely lost the toe. That's going to gift McQueen and confirm McQueen in the second position.
Yeah, great driving from McQueen there too. And exactly what we talked about before. Setting up the move through turn 1 to get the move done at turn 2. Here comes Mackay through, forces a mistake from Harris and gets it done into turn 3. Great job. There is Rallycross spec goes Mitchell McLeod. I don't think he remembered that this car is not a rally car. Although it's a front wheel drive, it's definitely not a Rallycross car.
Yeah, definitely not. Although the iRacing Rallycross series it's quite entertaining, this series. And this season for 2019, so check that out on Saturdays, of course. Sunday mornings, Australian time, if you're into it. But nevertheless, though, we're focusing on the IMSA Michelin Pilot series, which this challenge, of course, this series has been run quite well and very popular amongst iRacing. I just hope it doesn't drop off, you know. When you look at the iRacing stats page as well for the participation, the series does quite a splendid job.
Yeah, it's been really, really popular. I mean, to start the season off, it was always going to be a big flurry of drivers, but I think at this point now, you've got your core group of drivers, and I think the last 5 rounds too will bring a lot of drivers back. Some really, really cool tracks. I'm surprised that we haven't seen a bigger turnout for Mid-Ohio, because it's an absolutely phenomenal circuit and really, really well suited to these cars, but a lot of drivers don't enjoy this track for some reason. But Monza, Lime Rock, Zandvoort, Mosport and Phillip Island to come. We're going to see some big fields and some awesome action in the next few weeks.
Yeah, most certainly. Very good schedule picked out for Season 4 2019. James Mackay now on screen for the Pursuit Sim Racing team, and still outside the top 10. He's made his way past Harris. Now he's got Ashley Ruskin up ahead. Let's have a listen to this onboard shot. It's so good, you know. Oh, you switched away from it, Jay. Thank you.
I'll go back.
There you go, here through the middle sector. Just listen to him work the pedals, because in a front-wheel drive car, it works a little differently. You can see a lot more coasting, Jay, it seems, in a front-wheel drive car.
Yeah, you don't want to get the power on too early, because as soon as you put power on the front wheels, you'd understeer. So you really do steer the car with the throttle a lot more than you see other cars. So it's good to see. Just see someone absolutely smashing some cones up in the air. It's a bit spectacular to be a cone out there on the track today. You get a bit of airtime, but Mackay looking very, very quick. Unfortunate to see that he got involved in that incident early on in the race, because I think he could have battled with Foster based on his pace. If he wasn't held up, he'd be right up in that top 5 battle. So, yeah, unfortunate to see, and it's great to see Mackay out there on track again. Oh, that was late.
And somehow made the car stick to the tarmac. I'm not sure how. Just balancing it with the left foot there on the brake pedal. Mackay into the top 10. Wasn't the best of maneuvers, but it was a pass nevertheless. Oh, and here's Jack Swanpole and Samuel Graham. That's Samuel Graham on screen. See what's happened to these two battling for the final 2 positions.
I don't think anything needs to be said there about that one. We know what's happened there. Swanpole's just absolutely missed that braking point, and he's pulled up to try and redress the position, and then decided, no, I'll just keep going. So the World Championship for last is continuing on. So there's a few battles now starting to play out. We sort of said that around the halfway point we'd start to see some really, really, really interesting battles. Ahones, Bayer and Preston all together, and Haynes and Perez together. Mackay's closing in on Barnes at a rapid rate, so he'll be there. So we're going to see 3 really intense battles in the next little bit. Ahones as well, closing in on Matt Morris at the front. So we could see battles for 3rd and 4th, 5th through to 7th, 8th and 9th, and 10th and 11th. in the last 10 or 11 minutes. We're going to see some really cool battles.
And Jay, strength of fuel for this race?
2,532, so a little bit down from normal, but still a decent amount of championship points up for grabs. 153 for the race winner. So important to get those points when you can. If you have a good race in a race like this, it can counteract a bad one in a higher strength of field event. So getting good results in every race is always important, but these ones with a little bit smaller strength of field, you really want to capitalise on it and get a big advantage over your opponents in the championship.
Yep, and there's Preston behind in the 6th position. Honus and Bayer up ahead of him now. The 2 internationals that he's trying to make his way through. Now, 3 different lines from all 3 drivers here, just trying to spot visibility. Heading into the corners, Preston somehow makes his way up the inside, but he's going to have to concede the racing line back to Inigo Bayer there in the 5th position. We ride on board with our Honus and watch from the rear end. And he's going to be in trouble here. He's got 2 drivers hunting down here for not only 4th position, but they'll hope to catch Matt Morris in the next 10 minutes for 3rd.
They are closing in too, so this is going to be an interesting fight over the next little bit. Bayer looks strong. Preston looks really good. He's got this car hooked up at the moment in the background. You can see Haynes and Perez going at it, but we're going to stay with this battle here because this is going to be a change of position for sure. Preston's hung back just to watch and make sure that he doesn't get involved in an incident too. Very, very smart.
Yep, so good stuff from them. And, deep in the corner was Preston. How did he get that car slowed down just rapidly out of nowhere?
I think he just made sure he made contact to make sure that he used the other car ahead as a braking marker, make sure that he didn't cause a big incident there. But Preston did a good job just to pull it up. Haynes has got extra company now too as he's side by side. Oh, no!
Oh, no. Haynes just forced off the racetrack there. He was having such a good race, but Perez on his recovery drive makes his way past Haynes, however way you want to call it. But Perez yet again through that middle sector. It hasn't been friendly to him. And let's have a look at the replay here. Oh, that's just tough to see from that angle.
So there's already a bump coming out of that corner there, and yeah. Those are those ones I love not being in race control.
That's a tough one.
I'd hate to be calling that one in race control. It's a tough decision to make. But unlucky for Haynes, he didn't deserve that that spin. But I was about to say he had company because Perez was right there, and Barnes and Mackay have come together too. They've closed up very, very quickly. So Mackay's already up into 9th. He could get into 7th real quick, and the pace he's got, he could nearly close in on that battle we've been watching for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Exactly, and it will be 7th at best for Mackay. I don't think you'll be able to catch anybody in your top 6. They're just too far up the road. They're almost not even in shot right now. These are your 4th, 5th, 6th place drivers here of Bayer, Ahonis, and Preston. Inigo Bayer, though, up in the 4th.
He got that done, so Bayer now trying to break away. But one thing about that, why you say that Mackay best he could get his 7th, there's a very high possibility that these 3 drivers make heavy contact and lose all of that ground and all that advantage they've got. So Mackay really wants to get clear as quick as he can and start to break away so that if that does happen, he doesn't lose an extra spot trying to manoeuvre his way past and have other traffic get through in a better way than he does.
A few months ago, or a couple of months ago, I can't remember, it's very recently, as we watch Barnes versus Mackay in the Pursuit Sim Racing car, and I saw Robert Hartley here, well, he's got like a 9.6k I rating, been on iRacing for many, many years, even drove the V8, didn't he, for many years. He lost a 90-minute race spinning out at the final corner here at Mid-Ohio. He was leading the whole race. How about that?
Yeah, and just one minor lapse in concentration. We've seen in the Geodesic GoPro Championship, we saw drivers that just were blitzing the field, lose races just based on one minor issue, one minor mistake. One wheel off in the dirt is enough to absolutely change the whole complexion of a race. And around a circuit like this, as Preston looks to make the move, he's going to get this done by going around the outside. This is going to be a very, very clever move. Forces Ahones wide, gets it done. Well done. And at the same time, James Mackay is through as well.
Oh, brilliant. Looked like clean moves from both of them. Preston. That was magnificent by Corey Preston into the top 5. That deserves a replay for sure by Modem Simulation. This will be, what, confidence on the brakes, Jay? How do you pull off this? I think he's actually forced Ahonas there onto an ultra defensive line.
Yeah, I think that's what he's done. He's forced Ahonas into going too defensive. That's meant that he's had to brake too early. Then he's almost overcooked the corner. Preston, probably the experience of driving the V8 has probably helped him here in the braking performance, because we know how sensitive the braking is in the iRacing V8. So making sure he could pull that car up was really important. Here's the pass from Mackay as well. Just going to get it done really easily. Under brakes into turn number 3.
And a brilliant pass by Mackay. There into China Beach, as the outside's known anyway, into the gravel portion of the racetrack. David Haynes, we just saw for a moment on screen, he's had a brilliant race up until that contact with Yoda Perez. He's now outside the top 10. Now, Jack Flood, we're expecting a little bit better from Jack Flood, but we know he's also put in probably half a practice lap heading into this race.
Well, he might not have even done that. We didn't even see him do a qualifying lap, so he's probably doing practice right now. But it's one thing I do know about the guys at Talk, of course, that everyone in the Talk team except for me has raced in real life, so they do know how to handle it. If they understand the track and understand the car, they're fairly confident going in without practice, without a huge amount of practice. So we've seen Mitch can jump into any car at any time and be competitive. So this is probably the one series that he hasn't been as competitive as he'd like, but that's just based on his qualifying performance more than anything else. His race pace is pretty good, but Jack also a karter back in the day, so yeah, I'm the only one in the whole team of 6 drivers that doesn't or hasn't raced in real life. And of course we've got Scott Andrews, Ducky out there that racing overseas. He's just got back to Melbourne to have a little bit of a sabbatical, and he'll be back overseas racing again. So yeah, the Talk team has some talent in it, and unfortunately they got me in there too. So I guess I'm just helping bring the team back down to a normal level.
I wish I could join a team right now. I haven't been with a team since that. By the way, did you see that cone in the background? Just
I did.
Go into blasted into orbit. I'm not going to see that again. It was blasted into the like space-time continuum, man. We'll probably see it 50 years into the future, I reckon, if we come back to the racetrack.
Let's see if we can get a slow-mo of it. I reckon I can get it here.
Well, whilst we look at this slow-mo, yeah, I haven't been on a team since I think 2016. I was like an inactive for a year at Go Speed after I sort of semi-retired. It's always fun being on a sim racing team. It's like, the thing with sim racing teams is it's as good as being in a sport team in the real world. You know, you and I are big basketball fans. Being on a basketball team's a big deal. We'll see this cone go flying soon.
Yeah, Mackay's just going to hit this cone here. Bang, there it goes. And see you later, cone. I'll tell you what, look at the spin on the cone. It's done a good job just rotating around, and look at the distance it got on it. Maybe that's something we could do for a fun night, is see how far you can hit a cone and make it land on the right way up or something. Something for a fun night.
If anyone's setting up hosted sessions, just post them in the YouTube chat. I'll be there. Bit of fun on sim racing, why not? So whilst we approach the end of this race right now, Nick Foster still leads. We've almost forgotten about him. Nick Foster leads by 6 seconds. Ahead of McQueen, ahead of Morris. They're in your podium positions. They look like they'll remain untouched. Possibly the same for Inigo Bayer, but he has Corey Preston all over the rear end. So we don't know what's going to happen towards the end of the event for those two. Then it's Arhonis in 6th. He's dropped off those two after defending for many laps. And then we watch now the battle between Perez, Mackay, and Chris Barnes here for 7th, 8th, 9th. This is going to heat up here heading into turn 4. This is where the start of many other series races take place, just due to the longer nature of the straight. But let's see if Mackay here in the Pursuit Sim Racing car will have a look from the rear end of Mackay. Don't see Barnes appear on screen, so it remains all clear between the 3.
A little bit of a bump there too. Mackay not happy with the pace of Perez there through the corner and through the apex. So he's just giving a little bit of a hurry up to Perez, saying, let's move along, let's close up that gap. And Mackay, as we said, looked really quick. I think he could have fought for the win here with Nick Foster, which would have been good to watch. Foster still got that 6.5 second lead. I've just seen too on the timing screen that Damien Harris and Mitch McLeod have just had an incident as well. So I think we're going to have a replay of that, aren't we? We'll stay and see if Mackay can get this move done, then we'll go and get a replay.
Yeah, possibly. This will be very optimistic heading into the first corner here at Mid-Ohio. He's trying to get the best of run over the curbs. It's possible, but you rarely see it happen here into turn 1 at Mid-Ohio. Only a couple laps remaining in this race. Can't force Perez offline, but I think he's got a good run here heading into the keyhole.
Good momentum there. Just carried that speed really well through turn 1. We saw that lap previous where he sent the cone into oblivion. But he's got a really good line through turn 1. He was a little bit compromised there. I must say Chris Barnes looks the strongest on the exit there, but not able to carry the speed. And Mackay side by side with Perez. He's going to get this done here. Going to be clear before the braking zone by the looks.
And keep an eye on Barnes behind. Where he places his car, this could be a double whammy for Yoda Perez.
Perez was so
go for the
deep.
Switchback. Perez very deep on the brakes. Now they could be alongside each other heading into 5. They'll begin to form up through the middle sector. Barnes remains patient though.
What a fight this has been the whole way through. Just seeing Nick Foster actually is about to come up and win the race. He hasn't been on screen all race long.
Hasn't. So you can see that checkered flag will be out, and that's a good sign when we haven't seen much of you. You must be having a good, clean, consistent race. Nick Foster wins here for Week 7, Season 4, 2019 of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. There we see Preston will round out the top 5, and that move needed to be made done by Mackay. And he's trying everything here in the final stages of the race, but he'll come home in 8th at the end of the day and 1 position short of Perez. But a decent fight to end the race nevertheless. But again, from this race, there are a lot of drivers, Jay, and the lessons I have learned from this race, there are a lot of drivers that didn't finish where they deserved.
100%. There are a lot of drivers that deserved a lot better of a result. We saw the pace of a few of these drivers was a lot better. Mitchell McLeod, I've just seen too, has also made a pass on the last lap of these 2 drivers ahead, which is why I've gone back to a replay. We said before that he'd had an incident with Harrison Bowden. Well, he's ended up 7 seconds ahead of Bowden, so something's gone on there in the last laps. This is a replay of the final lap between these 3 drivers. I think we're going to see a little bit of hip and shouldering going on between these 3 here.
Let's have a look. Oh, man. Surprised Damien Harris has fallen down the order. He's had a good event so far. They through the final few corners here. There's McLeod in the number 7. And so what's going on here? This is through... Now we're heading towards the main straight. So what's happened here, Jay? I didn't see this, obviously.
You know what?
I don't think that they swapped position.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Oh, goodness.
And McLeod's going to get a 2 for 1 here. He's got 1, and he'll get a switch back, and he'll get the 2nd. And I think Bowden has then decided that he's going to redress the position, or he's been punted right on cue. There it is. So that's how McLeod got that spot there.
It did look like there wasn't that much contact. It's hard to judge there, nevertheless. But here's an onboard shot. We'll see if this is a US server issue. Certainly a bit of contact the first time, and the second time, there was contact.
There was definitely contact.
I don't think. I hope Rob Bowden finds the lighter side of that.
Yep. But I do love watching those World Championships for the second half of the field. They're always funny to watch.
Yeah, most certainly. Well, it's time to look at our final race results. Now, Nick Foster won the race quite dominantly, but didn't have the fastest lap. That went to Scotty McQueen on lap 8 of this event, of this 30-minute event here for round 7 at Mid-Ohio. Morris rounded out the top 3 on the podium, and it was very close there afterwards. Inigo Bayo and Corey Preston. Preston unable to get past Bayo for most of the second half of the race, but they worked together and managed to demote Arjonas a few seconds down the field into 6th and outside of the top 5. Then Perez, after his early... It was a very aggressive start, then it became a shambles of a start, then it became a pretty good end to the race as he made his way back up through the field. But he will certainly go back to the drawing board and look on how to improve on that P7. He certainly deserved more than that. Mackay ended up rounding out the top 8. Now we cycle through the order, Jay, and Chris Barnes and Ashley Ruskin, 2 top 10s to remember.
Yeah, they're both +3, a couple of our bigger movers in the field, so good job for those guys as well. Morris and Bay are also big movers, but McLeod, the biggest mover in the field, is 5 positions. David Haynes deserved a lot better than that 11th as well after that contact. Another incident that we would be more than happy just to sit here and watch and not be in race control for. There were so many of those throughout the race, wasn't there? There was a few 50-50 incidents throughout the race, which remind me of why I like to sit in the commentary box and not sit in race control. It's been an entertaining one, though, for sure, with those incidents throughout the field. Disappointing to see some drivers get so badly hurt, likes of Mackay and Haynes, but a good recovery from Perez from that really early incident.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it was, as we said, not the best of clean racing we've seen in TCR, but it was still entertaining nevertheless here. But next week now, Jay, we will head over to
Monza.
Just making sure heading over to Monza, of course. Now, Lime Rock Park after that, Zandvoort, then we have Motorsport. It seems like Monza is really the only track left on the calendar with high speeds and straight lines. That's going to be quite interesting. You know, Monza's one of my favorite circuits of all time, and really interesting to see how these touring cars head there.
Yeah, 100%. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Of course, we haven't seen too many different sorts of circuits. I mean, we've seen the 7 races in the official series plus Bathurst in Just Send It. So it's been interesting to see the way the cars behave at different circuits. I think when we get into Season 2 of this series, which is Season 1 2020, for this season, how the different tracks in the schedule are picked and what tracks really do suit the cars going forward. Because, I mean, there's a lot of hosted series that are running this car that will know what cars have been better for racing. This track I thought was quite good for racing, but those incidents through the middle part of the circuit probably put a few people off. But I actually really enjoyed this track in these cars. I think it was a good combination.
Yeah, most certainly. And that next week will take place at the same time, of course, as usual, 10:15 a.m. GMT. That's 9:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So don't miss it, of course. It will all be on the SimSpeed Esports Network or SimSpeed TV. Check out the YouTube channel, websites, and at Facebook, of course, more information on SimSpeed TV. And also, don't forget to check out iRacing.com for more information. Grab yourself a subscription. Join in on the fun here that you see in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge for Season 4 2019. Monza is next week. That's going to be quite a thrill. But from myself, Jonathan Simon, from Jay Kennedy alongside me, and our entire SimSpeed Esports Network crew, we'll say so long from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God!